The LouieTeeNetwork is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Good morning and ooh. Good morning. Ooh. How y'all doing today on this beautiful Friday morning? Hope everything is going well for you. So we had some news yesterday. Veteran center Tyler Biadasz was released. I thought about a lot of different things surrounding this move. It was unexpected. This was one of the position groups that we felt comfortable with going into the offseason. Only thing they really needed to do was re-sign Chris Paul. You'd fill in all of the ancillary parts around them. They've already started that process by bringing back Andrew Wiley. So it felt like, hey, we can kind of push offensive line to the back burner, maybe find an undrafted guy after the draft was over to develop, that sort of thing, like they did with Tim McKay last year. And then they do this. So let's kind of dive into this decision that they've come to and why they came to this decision. We don't know the answer to that, right? But this is what we do here. We draw inferences. We talk about facts. We draw inferences, and then we come up with opinions and then what we think is going to happen moving forward. So I've got three options that the Commanders have to move forward after this move. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Let's first talk about what we know. So the Commanders move on from Tyler Biadasz. He's 28 years old. He's started each of the last two seasons for the Commanders, signing a 3-year deal in the 2024 offseason, coming over from Dallas with Dan Quinn and company. He's made 31 starts over those two seasons. He's dealt with injuries in each of those two seasons, both to his lower extremities. He's been a guy that's played through injuries, but he's also missed some time. And then he missed the back end of this season and ended up on IR with another knee injury. So I think the knee injury, coupled with the money and looking at the position, I think all of these were factors that the Commanders took into consideration. I can tell you that Biadasz was constantly dealing with something lower extremity-wise from an injury standpoint, and I think it was something that continued to concern them. You also need to factor in that they're making a switch scheme-wise, philosophically up front, and maybe Biadasz doesn't necessarily fit that. Now, I beg to differ. I think he could work just fine in a zone run blocking scheme, in a zone scheme in general. So I don't think that is the reason he's no longer here, but that could be a factor that they also weighed into their decision. I think it is more with the injury, his declining play, and maybe that is in part due to the injuries, but I think it's the declining play, the injuries, and the money all kind of combined into one package that kind of pushed them towards the decision that they ultimately made. So here's an interesting tidbit, because the money just didn't seem like enough to cut him at this juncture, right? $2.8 million just doesn't move me. And I get it. It's not my money. It's easy to say what does or doesn't move me when it's not my bread. But after continuing to deep dive, it makes a lot more sense when you look at it from this lens. You cut him now, you save $2.8 million, you eat about $8.1 million of dead cap. That's not smart business, right? Because Tyler Biadasz isn't a guy you want gone that bad that you need to eat $8 million worth of dead cap, right? It's just that's stupid. You might as well keep him on the roster if you're going to do that. He's not a malcontent. He's not an issue or a problem. If you brought in someone else to take his spot, he could sit on the bench just like you did to Andrew Wiley and Nick Allegretti last year, and he could still make his money if you're going to eat the money, right? But if they designate him a post-June 1 cut, they are then able to save over $8 million and only have to eat the $2.8 million. So it's the inverse. That makes a lot more sense than cutting him now and only saving $2.8 million. So what they're probably going to do is designate him as a post-June 1 cut. However, by releasing him now, you essentially give him an opportunity to find a new home while there's still money available when the new league year starts. There will be teams looking to fortify their center position before the draft, and he's going to be one of the better options because there aren't a ton of great options in free agency available. So it's starting to make more sense from all of that perspective, right? The injury, the money, all of that makes sense. 2 + 2 is equaling 4 when you look at it from that perspective. But it still leaves the question, why now? You're making this switch philosophically, scheme-wise. Jaden's going to be under center. You would love to have that transition be with a guy he's comfortable with. So why now? You've got continuity up front. This is the one group that we thought we could go into the offseason not having to really tinker with. Just bring back Chris Paul, and you should have your 5 guys that you feel good about going into the season, or at least into camp. You let Brandon Coleman compete with Chris Paul to see who's the better of the two for this new scheme, and you move forward, right? You felt like you had this position group somewhat intact, and you didn't have to do much. And as a fan, looking at our current situation, specifically in the draft, you got 6 picks. You really don't want any of them to be spent on the offensive line, if at all possible. Not that it's a waste of a pick. It just feels like something that didn't need to have to be done. And what you've done effectively is you've created another need that wasn't here before. So they have to have a plan, right? Which takes me to the next discussion. 3 options for the Commanders. 3 ways they could go about solving this problem that they've created, right? This void that now exists on the offensive line at what you could argue is one of the most crucial portions of the offensive line. I would always argue that after the tackles, the center is the next most important. I don't even think that's a real argument, to be honest with you. I mean, you can't get away with trash guards either, right? Because your quarterback is going to suffer either way if you have weak links or a weak link on your offensive line. But the center is the nervous system of the offensive line and the operation. He's the brains. He, can set protections, make checks. He's the guy that the quarterback has to have that relationship with, trust him to put them in the right situations. Again, you'd like your quarterback to be able to command all of those things, but it's always nice to have a center that's also aware and able to do those things as well. With that said, let's talk about the 3 options that the Commanders have at their disposal. So the first one is the least likely, I believe, of the 3, but I wouldn't rule it out, right? We don't really know what they're going to do. But the first option is in-house, right? I truly believe that there isn't an in-house option that they're looking at to fill this void. Now, again, you've heard people jump to the Brandon Coleman conclusion. And I find that hard to believe that that's what they're going to do with Brandon Coleman, right? Now, again, I think they also want him starting somewhere on this offensive line. And if he can't wrestle the spot back from Chris Paul at left guard, maybe their next inclination is to try him at center. But this isn't a try at center type of situation. I'm pretty sure he's taken snaps at center over the summer, in probably both summers that he's been here. Maybe not his rookie season, but definitely last year. I would guess that he probably took some snaps last, training camp before he got injured. And I don't know how that went, but they love to move guys around to see what it is they can and can't do. So maybe they feel like they're a little bit more comfortable with him taking center snaps. But again, I'm not in the exploration phase here as Jaden goes into year 3. This is why I don't think the in-house candidate is on the roster. Now, you've got Brandon Coleman. Think he's more of a guard or a tackle, more so a guard than anything else. Don't think he's a center. You've got Tim McKay, who, again, much like Coleman, was a tackle guard combo in college, but more so primarily a guard. Don't really have a ton of center background and experience, but much like Coleman and what I just said, I believe he's taken some snaps over the summer, and they want to continue to see if he has the versatility to maybe in a pinch have to go play some center, etc. He's not the guy. I don't see that being the option. And then Nick Allegretti does have experience playing center, but you didn't cut Tyler Biadasz to then start Nick Allegretti. You could theoretically have done that, but that just doesn't make a ton of sense to me, right? That's not an upgrade there. So to me, Allegretti continues to provide tremendous depth as an interior offensive lineman that can play all 3 interior spots, but you don't want him starting, right? So I think the first option is somewhat obsolete. In-house option doesn't exist right now, unless you're a Julian Good, fan, right? What is it? Julian Good Love or Julian Love Good or whatever the hell his name is. Why is he still here? Get out of here, right? He shouldn't still be here. Option 2, free agency. So I think this is probably 40 to 45% likely, right? Tyler Linderbaum is the best available free agent center. Highly doubt that they're going to do that, right? Because as I've said to you guys in the past, they've invested quite a bit along this offensive line. So to me, it's very unlikely that they're going to invest even more resources into this offensive line. You don't mind spending draft picks on the offensive line because it's cheap labor, right? So they've spent the first round pick on Josh Connolly Jr. last year. They don't mind doing that because if he pans out and he becomes the guy that they drafted him to be, you've got a starting right tackle, potentially, starting tackle, whether he kicks over to the left side eventually down the road, whatever. You got a starting tackle in this league for many years to come, right? You'll worry about paying him when that time comes and you have to cross that bridge, but that's no time in the near future. You're talking 3-4 years down the road, they may have to make that decision, right? You've already invested in Sam Cosmi, giving him an extension and some good money. You've already invested, or you're about to invest in Laramie Tunsil. You've already invested in Laramie Tunsil by giving up draft capital. You're going to invest money now in extending him to keep him here, right? And so you're going to have to pay Chris Paul if you want him back. And again, that shouldn't be significant money, but it's money nonetheless. I can't see them spending a ton more money at center, right? It just doesn't feel like something Adam Peters is going to do. I could be wrong. And there could be other guys that emerge as veteran free agent centers. The list is very short of guys that make you comfortable right now as it stands. Like literally, Tyler Biadasz goes damn near to the top of the list of available free agent centers. And that's not good, right? That just kind of tells you what exists out there right now. So Linderbaum is really the cream of the crop. Hard for me to envision seeing the Ravens just let this man walk away. It could happen, because that leads me to my last option for the Commanders. This is a deep draft class of interior offensive linemen. So option 3 for the Commanders is to address this in the draft. Now, we had a discussion on the Commanders Kings last night about a young center coming in here and starting isn't ideal with the whole change thing on the offense with Jaden getting under center, et cetera, et cetera. All of that makes 100% sense. However, I got to thinking last night, what's the one position that general managers are usually very comfortable drafting and plugging and playing right away? And I always come back to the center position. Of all the positions that you see teams draft, the center position is one that general managers feel immense comfort with starting right out of the gates. Oftentimes, centers are guys that have 47, 51, 37, 39, 43 collegiate starts under their belt. They've been tough, they've been durable, they've been reliable, they've played in major conferences against big time talent, Sunday type talent. And so you can just watch a guy, know that he is capable, they're super smart. So you literally bring these guys in, plug them in day one, and they hit the ground running. It's a position that you see teams trust as rookies so often. And so in thinking about it in those contexts, I could easily see this team spending a 5th round pick on a center. Again, maybe that's not ideal. 3rd round pick. Again, not ideal. That's not how we envision spending one of our draft picks this year, especially having only one day 2 draft pick. You'd hate to have to spend that on a center. But if they feel like Tyler Biadasz was a liability and they need to fortify that position in order to do the things that they want to do on the offensive side of the football, you may have to spend your 3rd round pick, which is going to be probably the sweet spot in this draft. Talked about the mid rounds being the sweet spot for the interior offensive line. You're probably going to find yourself a really quality center in the 3rd round. Again, not ideal. There was so many different plans we had for that 3rd round pick that we would love to spend it on. And center wasn't one of them. But being that they made this move, center is a real option now. Again, that's subject to change. This is why I am a fan of free agency being first. I know most people feel like it's backwards and it should be the other way around. You should be able to go to the draft first and then have free agency to clean up whatever you weren't able to get in the draft. I personally like it the other way around. I like the fact that you can go out in free agency, get guys to supplement your roster, and then after you're done, you see what holes remain, what things can be fortified and strengthened, and then you continue to build by going and getting guys to fill in those gaps. If they go out and they sign a veteran safe center, and I'm not talking about Thank you for making me right, Jaden. One of those types of centers. I'm talking about a legitimate starting caliber center like a James Daniels, someone like that just was released from the Miami Dolphins. If they go out and sign someone like that, then they're probably not going to have to spend a third round pick or a fifth round pick on a center, right? Duh. But what was it? I don't know why this just came in my head. I think what is it, Julian Good Jones? That's his name, right? Why am I thinking about Julian Good Jones? Why is his name even in my head? I don't know. Stop asking. If you're able to get someone in free agency, it alleviates the need in the draft. If you don't, then you have to assume that they're going to do something in the draft. If they do nothing in free agency, nothing in the draft, then I don't think you have to assume at that point. They're going to tell us because someone's going to ask them at that point. After the draft, there's a press conference where they take questions. Someone's going to ask, okay, you cut Tyler Biadasz because there probably won't be any more access to these guys until after day one of the draft, right? That's when you're going to see DQ and Adam Peters hit the podium to talk about their first round pick and why that guy was the pick. And from that point forward, usually they let Lance Newmark handle the rest of the draft. I think they come back after day two. I think they come back after day two, and then Newmark handles day three, or he could handle 2 and 3, whatever the case may be. That's when the media will have their first opportunity to ask them, what the hell's going on? What are you guys going to do here? And then you'll get some sort of answer. But I think we'll have our answer long before then, because I anticipate that they will do something, whether it's free agency or the draft, they will do something that will allow them to fill this void and kind of alleviate any questions that we may have about what the answer is going to be to the center dilemma that they now have. So I guess theoretically speaking, they could have a press conference during free agency if they sign a big enough free agent that warrants them to introduce said free agent and have a press conference for said free agent. Then I guess there could be an opportunity for us to hear from DQ or Adam Peters and have them speak and answer some questions. But it feels like draft is the next time you'll really hear from them in a press conference setting. By then, I would hope they've done something to fill this void that they've created by moving on from Tyler Biadasz. So at the end of the day, there are 3 options. In-house, I think that's the least likely of the 3. Free agency, I'd put that at 40%. Draft, I think that's the most likely scenario, 60%. And there are plenty of plug and play centers that you can find in college football, played a ton of football, experienced, tough, durable, smart. You put them in right away. You see it all the time in the NFL. It's one of those positions that you see teams start guys in all types of rounds, undrafted, center, boom, he's in there right from the get-go. It's one of those positions where guys transition really well, if they can play, because they've got so much experience. Unlike some positions where guys only have 20 starts under their belt, 22 starts under their belt, centers seem like they get 37, 43, 47, 51 starts. So they're really, really experienced. They have the know-how. They understand the nuances. They're able to transition seamlessly. think that's what they'll be looking for in the draft. They'll find one, they'll draft him, and that'll be a cheaper, younger option at center, and they'll move forward. So anyway, let's get to the comment section. But before we do that, let's get a word from our sponsor, come back on the other side, and then see if you guys have anything to say. Sleeper. Sleeper is the best way to experience and connect over sports together. It's a one-stop shop for all of your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat in the games in real time with other users, get the fastest scores, blazing fast news and alerts right at your fingertips. Play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. So enjoy sports the way they were meant to, together. Download the #1 sports app today. Predict the hottest football stats like passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and much more to cash in on your daily fantasy football skills. Use promo code LTN and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Sleeper. Shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring this stream. If you haven't already done so, link is in the description. Click that link. It'll take you to where you can download the Sleeper app. Use my promo code LTN to get you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. Some quick NFL news and notes. The Cowboys have officially tagged George Pickens. Not a surprise. We knew they were going to end up here. We had talked about this during the season. Like, we knew Jerry Jones wasn't going to pay George Pickens whatever he was asking for. This was always going to turn into a tag situation. It's going to turn ugly. I wouldn't be shocked, and I would not rule this out. The Cowboys tag and trade George Pickens. Don't be surprised if they tag him, which they've already done, and then ultimately trade George Pickens and then use that pick or use some of the draft capital to select a wide receiver. So don't rule any of this out. Right now, let's just assume he's under the tag. He'll play under the tag this year, and then Jerry will come back to the table next year, drag this thing out again, and then finally pay him his long-term deal. The bottom line is George Pickens isn't a free agent. Franchise tag has been applied. We figured that would be the case. Also, in New York, I brought this up last night because people keep saying that the Giants are going to draft Sonny Styles. And I know Rio was saying, well, the Giants may draft a receiver, which they do need one, to go opposite of Malik Neighbors. That makes a ton of sense as well. But I contend that there's a chance they could take an edge rusher. And while that is in a position of need for them, I suggested that Kayvon Thibodeau could be on his way out. There was a report today that the Giants are listening. They're not actively shopping, but they are listening to offers for Kayvon Thibodeau. And they're seeking a late day 2 pick or an early day 3 pick. So basically, hey, let me get a third up off you. If not a third, definitely need a 4th for this dude, and he's yours. So they're definitely making space. I don't blame them. Kayvon Thibodeau doesn't move the needle for me. He's not trash. So let me just stress that. He's not trash, but he's not a needle mover, right? He's the equivalent of like a Montez Sweat to me, right? Solid guy, can get you some sacks, get you some pressures, will stop the run, but he isn't anything dynamic. He isn't anything to write home about, right? So we'll see what happens there. But if they are able to trade him, similar to the Jets trading Jermaine Johnson, it opens up an opportunity for you to take an edge rusher. So I mentioned that last night that I think the Giants could go edge again. We will see. Or they could just be making space for Abdul Carter to start and play more snaps. That could also be the intent there, not to bring in another guy because they already have Brian Burns as well. Maybe the intent is to just clear out all the space and let Abdul Carter go to work. So we'll see. But I digress. Let's get to the comment section. We have one comment and then we'll get out of here. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB video channel. Right. Lou, video channel. Biadasz was getting worked against top competition, but none of us expected it. Real question is, who's next? Who else ain't a scheme fit currently? I think, so first of all, we knew that Tyler Biadasz wasn't a perfect center. We knew he had flaws when we got him. Dallas Cowboys fans, I know I talked to at least 3 or 4 that gave me the lowdown on Biadasz. There's like, look, he's a good player, but he can be overwhelmed by power. He's a guy that will allow the pocket to collapse. He actually did a really good job, I felt like, throughout his tenure here of keeping the pocket from collapsing in front of Jaden. But then he had his moments where he was beat. He had his moments where the pocket did collapse, where he was able to be bull rush. And he also had injury issues here. Even though he played through a lot of them, he was constantly dealing with something, it felt like. So I don't know if they moved on from him because he wasn't a scheme fit. That could be the case. I don't think it is, but I don't foresee anybody else not fitting the scheme moving forward. The only other guy that I think there could be questions about is Chris Paul. And they talked about his movement skills last year and how they improved and how they felt like his athleticism, in air quotes, was really good last year in terms of moving his feet to stay in front of defenders and protect Jaden in the pass game. DQ even mentioned that during his combine presser the other day about Chris Paul's improvement and how he was impressed with his athleticism inside and being able to protect in the pass game. He talked about the combo blocks between Laramie Tunsil and Chris Paul and how those guys worked in tandem very well together, and that he was extremely proud of the progress that Chris Paul had made, and said that he's an interesting guy as they head into free agency. Feel like they want him back. And if they feel that good about him as a protector, I don't know necessarily if he fits what they want to do running the football wise, but they really are confident in his abilities as a pass protector. So while he isn't, I don't think, an ideal fit for what they're going to do in the run game necessarily, I think they feel really good about him as a pass protector. Again, we will see. I don't feel like anybody else is really in the discussion. Everybody else has, I think, defined roles, and thus they're not going to be affected as much by the change in scheme. So we'll see what happens. Habibi's Collectibles, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Biadasz isn't a wide zone center and have the range. Shanahan, McVay guys want a lighter, more explosive center to push NFC East D lines. Cushenberry, he is an athlete. I don't necessarily know if he's the ideal fit. He's the ideal fit for the scheme. Is he an ideal fit for this offensive line? Because again, you still have to pass protect. Like, we have some beasts, if you didn't know, in this division at defensive tackle. So you can't just be this light in the trunks, uber athletic center that can get out and move but can't anchor. So that's going to be the question, because you got Dexter Lawrence, you got Quinnen Williams, and you got that Georgia wall in Philadelphia of Jalen Carter and big number 90. I can't think of his name right now, but you can't have a 298-pound center, right? And again, I think Lloyd Cushenberry and guys like him, James Daniels, I think those guys are over 300 pounds, but they're tremendous athletes. But at what cost, right? So, but it's important to have athleticism if you're going to try to run that zone offense, that outside zone and things of that nature. It's important to have guys that can be mobile and get out there, get to those landmarks, reach those blocks, things of that nature. So Cushenberry is definitely a guy that is in the mix. But like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if they went out and got a veteran. Like a Lloyd Cushenberry. I wouldn't be shocked. They did that. So, hey, Scotty! Thank you for the super sticker, man. Really, truly do appreciate you. Big shout out to my guy. Hey, Scotty! William Rogers Jr., thank you for being a member for 43 months. Salute to you, who writes, Parker Brailsford from Alabama should be examined. They're going to leave no stone unturned when it comes to the draft if they don't do anything in free agency. Again, I don't think it is necessary right now. This is why I don't really like to dive into the draft in terms of what we're going to do until after free agency, because you could sit here, you could comb through all these, interior offensive linemen, and you can say, hey, this guy's really good. This guy would be a great fit. This guy, have you watched this guy? And then 2 weeks from now, they've signed, fill in the blank at center. And you're like, oh, okay, guess they're not doing any of that. So I'd rather just wait and see if they're going to go in that direction in free agency. And if they do, then they're not going that direction in the draft. If they don't, then there's a really good chance that in the draft, they're going to take their guy. So there's a lot of talented interior offensive linemen. Like I said, again, this is not because I am aware. It's because Daniel Jeremiah said it, and I trust him, right? Listening to his pre-combine conference call, he said that there's a plethora of plug-and-play interior offensive linemen in this draft. So I've got to assume that this staff and those scouts and Adam Peters can identify which guy is a good fit. And he talked about this at the podium, did Adam Peters, that both Durante Jones and David Blau did a great job of putting together a presentation to show what type of player they're looking for. Maybe after that meeting, they came to a conclusion that Tyler Biadasz isn't a part of their future. Who knows? We'll see. Anyway, I digress. So that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, here on the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. So I'll be back later on this evening breaking down days 1 and 2 of the combine. So we've got the measurables now for Caleb Downs. He checked in at 5'11 and a half, roughly 200 and I think it was 203 pounds. Let me check just to be sure. 5'11 and a half, 206 pounds. Don't let me short him. 30 and a quarter inch arms and 73 and a quarter inch wingspan. So not ideal numbers, but we already knew he was height deficient. Doesn't change the fact that he's a dog. Now it's a matter of what does he do from a testing standpoint? Does he separate himself, or is he just another guy athletically? We will find out today. Among other things, we'll see some of the corners get to run around out there. This is a really good day. And then also tight ends. I don't think we're taking one, but there's a chance. I'll tell you the one that I like when we have our conversation about day 2 of the combine tonight. So hopefully he goes and has a really good day so I can talk him up later on this evening. But that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Enjoy the rest of your morning. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys later on this evening. Until then, you guys take care. Have a good one. Peace.